Real quick housekeeping before we start. Tonight, April and Kurt are going to be in about a 40-minute discussion, followed by 15 to 20 minutes of your questions. We have a virtual audience, an audience watching virtually. It's not a virtual. If I could make a virtual audience, my job would be so much easier. No, you guys are great. Please line up at the microphone here, and there'll be another microphone there. That way the folks on the other side of the screen can hear you and everyone else here can. After the event is over, April will be signing her book. Urban Reads Bookstore is outside. Please buy a book, support an independent bookstore, have it signed. Okay, thanks again for coming out. We'll start in about a minute.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome all Baltimore area library lovers. The Pratt Library loves you, and we know you love the Pratt Library. So thank you so much for being here. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Michelle Farmer. I am the chair of the Pratt Library Boards, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here for this very special event of the Brown Lecture Series. We are thrilled to welcome back to the Pratt stage Ms. April Ryan, a celebrated journalist and award-winning author. I want to thank all of our private donors who help make our series of programs possible, but we want to especially thank the leaders of the Brown Lecture Series, Eddie and Sylvia Brown. It is the Eddie C. and C. Sylvia Brown Family Foundation that has generously supported the Brown Lecture Series, and it's just such a pleasure to have special events such as having April Ryan come to speak to us, and so for that, we're grateful to the Brown family for this. I have a few announcements to make, so just bear with me. I'll make these announcements about coming attractions and things that you need to know before I do my formal introductory comments for April Ryan. Our donors are very generous, and as a result, for those who've parked at the Franklin Street Garage, there are free will be held for all 7th and 8th graders in the Baltimore City Schools. Thanks so much, Sean.
You got it.
Okay. I know y'all can hear me, but I'm always happy to have a microphone that helps me out. This year's selection is called Furia by Yamile Saeed Mendez. And this program is going to start, their kickoff will be on November 10th. On Thursday, the author will participate in a program with 400 middle schoolers here at the Pratt. So we're real excited about this. On November 17th, we're going to be blessed with a special event through the Hackerman Best and Next series. W. Kamau Bell, comedian, author, and director, will be here as part of that series. Please register. It's filling up fast, so we hope if you're interested, you'll sign up. And this Saturday, there's going to be a family event called Discover Egypt's Treasures. It's a day-long event. It's very family friendly, and we're doing this in partnership with the Baltimore Luxor Alexandria Sister City Committee. It starts at 1 o'clock, but I think it should be a lot of fun. It went again. Nope, here we are. I'm back. I'm back. All right. So I am pleased to welcome tonight one of Baltimore's best, April Ryan, to speak with us this evening. Ms. Ryan is a White House correspondent. She is a CNN analyst, and she is the DC bureau chief for the GRIO, as well as being an accomplished writer and author of several books. Her latest book will be available here today, Black Women Will Save the World. It's a great book, and we hope that everyone here will make sure you get a copy. Tonight, she's going to be in conversation with our former mayor and the current president of University of Baltimore, President Kurt Schmoke, to have a conversation. We hope that you will all enjoy hearing from April. And as I've said to our folks before at the reception, Ms. April Ryan, if you don't want to take my word for it, that she is a show enough shero. In 2017, she was recognized as Journalist of the Year by the National Association of Black Journalists. I'm sure for many of you, she is one of your sheroes, and she will be in conversation with President Kurt Schmoke, who should be one of Baltimore's heroes. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the evening.
After you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone.
Well, this is quite an honor for me to be here tonight to be in conversation with you. You've written an outstanding book. It's kind of a sweeping look across time and continents. And you've got a wonderful introduction there. They didn't ask you the Baltimore question, where'd you go to high school? But
all right. So, okay, I attended Seton High School on Charles Street, not Seton Keogh, when it was Seton High School on Charles Street. Yes.
So,
remember that? All right.
But it's an impressive look, number of people from all walks of life. But let me start by asking you a question. There's a quote in the book where you write that hate is on the rise in America, but so is hope.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could tell us particularly what's the basis for your assertion about so is hope?
You know, my late mother used to tell me, where there's life, there's hope. And just look around us in this city, sir. You know, the city that I think, and I'm just going to say this, you were the best mayor that I know of for this city.
I appreciate it.
And
thank you.
It's the truth.
Thank you.
You see the women, the activists, everyone trying to do the best to better each community in this city. And that's what's happening across the nation, even right now. The hope for a better day, even in spite of the news reports about what's happening tomorrow. Tomorrow. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. Tomorrow. Okay. Thank you. And please, if you haven't voted, please vote. And these numbers that we're hearing, 34 million people have already early voted.
Right.
That's saying something.
Yeah.
In spite of being told you cannot stand in line and get a cracker from your grandchild if you stand in line for a long time because you'll go to jail.
Right.
We find a way when there's no way.
Right. You write about, and I'm going to ask you about some of the women that you write about, but there are a couple of concepts that you throw out that at least I had not heard, and maybe some others. One in particular is misogynoir.
Misogynoir. It's okay. So to break it down, it's the gender and the color, the race.
Okay.
Black woman. But let's break it down even more. Bell Hooks offered that. The great Bell Hooks. Yes. But let's even go simplify it and go deeper. I'm thinking about the first Black woman to run for president in 1972, Shirley Chisholm.
Yeah.
She basically, well, I think Bell Hooks took from Shirley Chisholm, she made it really cute and nice. It's just fabulous, misogynoir. But Shirley Chisholm said being Black and a woman is a double whammy. And I think all of that is the same. I think that's misogynoir.
Okay. And that's what you face in your job?
Yes. Most definitely. You saw it on TV. You saw it. There might be a movie about it one day. Who knows? But no, yes. You know, we still unfortunately live in a male-dominated society.
Yeah.
For the most part, a white male-dominated society, depending upon what spectrum we're in for our profession. And I happen to be in a profession that was not built for anyone who looks like me. The founding fathers did not think about April Ryan when they committed to writing the First Amendment, freedom of the press. The Kerner Commission report, however, did think of me. And for all of you remember, as I see many people here who are wise in years, you remember how LBJ, then President Lyndon Baines Johnson, after Dr. King was killed, wanted to find out why there was unrest in communities. He commissioned an 11-member panel, and they came up with, you know, separate and unequal. And towards the back of that Kerner Commission report was, I think it's section 15, where it talked about the press, that they needed people who look like you and me in these spaces, these high spaces, to ask questions to diffuse tensions.
Yeah.
That's the Kerner Commission report in LBJ. It didn't really last because the next president was who? Richard Milhouse Nixon.
Yep.
So, but I still lean on that.
Yep.
I still lean very heavily on that, and the First Amendment.
And you also talk about how the need to combat a concept that you call erasure.
Oh, yeah. I may ask the question, oh, she didn't ask it. You know, it's somebody, they give it to someone else. We are erased. Concepts that we bring to the workplace and at the table, someone else did it, or someone else spoke it. Or, you know, it's not even worth dealing with. They just totally, completely just erase it away.
You specifically talk about Tarana Burke. Could you?
Me too. Tarana Burke did something really, really great. When we started seeing all of this, you know, this rise and you know, misogynistic behavior, she was bold enough to get out there and speak on it. She started this hashtag, Me Too. But she was pushed away. I mean, you hear Me Too, but you don't hear Tarana Burke. You don't see her anymore. It's kind of like the hashtag, what is it? Black Lives Matter, you know?
And that was Latasha?
No, Latasha's voting rights.
Okay.
Latasha Brown is voting rights.
Okay.
And she has to sing it so you can engage in it, which is ridiculous. When we come up with concepts and situations, okay, they want to damp it down. They want to get rid of it because it's so true, because we deal with it. When those hashtags are out there and they're going, you got other people trying to erase the hashtags or trying to counter it. Tarana Burke is one example. And she's still fighting to this day to stop the misogyny, to stop the womanizing and all that. You know, I wish I was in the room with her when we heard that Tic Tac comment by the then president at that time who was running for office.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was against everything that she stood for, the hashtag Me Too.
Yeah. Well, in your previous books, and we should note that you have written 3 other books.
This is number 4.
You talk a lot about your experience? I mean, an experience under the Clinton, the Obama, and the other guys.
But you
White
forgot
House.
Bush. You forgot Bush.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
You said that's right.
The one thing that besides the fact that for a long time you were the only African American woman in the White House press corps
Asking about issues on race.
on race, but I noticed that in terms of the kinds of pressures that you were under, that others were under, you write about it, something that kind of new to all of us, a person named Cesar Sayoc.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You guys know who Cesar Sayoc is. I'm gonna refresh your memory. You probably remember the name, but remember a couple of years ago, it felt like the world stopped because the Obamas, the Clintons, CNN, everybody was getting these bombs. Remember? Well, I got one before they even got theirs. Yeah. It went to my boss in Pittsburgh and they shipped it to my home here in the safest space that I have to raise my children, me and my children. I opened the package. My boss remembers the package. I remember the package. I opened the package and I'm like, is this a piece of equipment you guys sent me? Right, exactly. My children upstairs playing. I'm in my office. I'm like, and they said, and he asked a gentleman who's in production, did you send her something? Because they were complaining about my sound for my equipment. And I thought they sent that, but they did. It came from Pittsburgh because it went to Pittsburgh. He did not have my home address, but he actually did come to find, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. So I opened it and I'm like, wait a minute. So I let it sit for about a week or two. Ain't nothing but a hedge of protection around this sister right here. So I called him. I said, are you sure this is not something you sent? He said, well, just chuck it. I chucked it. It must have been incinerated in the Baltimore County. How about that?
Yeah.
So months later, because this was like during the summer, end of summer. And months later, it's like October or something, we started hearing about this and I was reporting on it. And then when they showed the package that had that clear tape and the way the letter was mailed, and they showed a picture, I was in shock.
Yeah. Now he got convicted of sending bombs to
Fake bombs, yeah.
Fake bombs to.
So when I called my boss, he said, April, I see it. And we were both in shock and we were trying to figure out, what do we do? We tried to figure out, do we call the FBI? Because we didn't want, because Trump was after me big time. Trump was after me big time. And I said, if we call the FBI and we don't have it, they would think I'm performative. So my security detail, and we tried to figure it out. We just said, okay, if indeed this is what Cesar Sayoc sent, the FBI will be calling.
Yeah.
It was the next year. They were looking for me. It was right after Donald Trump said I was a loser and all that stuff, and yeah, from the tarmac, and I was nasty. So anyway, so they were looking for me. I literally was landing at BWI. I came home from, I just did a guest host for The Real and went to Miami and then landed. Literally, I just landed and my phone rang. I was literally walking off the plane and they said, April Ryan? I said, yes. They said, this is so-and-so from the FBI. I said, how do I know this is you? And so he said, I said, I'm on a plane. Can you call me back? So ultimately, come to find out, I had moved at that time because people were following me at my home a lot. And I used my old home as a decoy. And my neighbors, I know I had to do that.
Mm.
My neighbor said to me that people were coming by, and she said they would ask, "Does someone live here?" And my neighbor, whose name is Linda, she said they asked, and she says, "Who are you? Why do you want to know?" Because everybody in my neighborhood knew. They were watching
Yeah.
out for me.
Right.
So
That's
yeah.
great. Yeah.
So she called me and I said, okay. So then he text messaged me a picture of his card. And I said, okay, this must be legit. So I called and it was true. They came to my new house, the house where I now live. And they said, "We don't want to alarm you, but we believe that you might be getting a package." I said, I can do you one better. I had it already. And mind you, between that time, thank God for sister friends. Between that time, Donna Brazil reached out to me months before they got to me and said, "April, you're on the list." I said, "I can do you one better." But it took a long time for them.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's incredible story, and I know you hadn't told that
not this way,
before.
no.
Right?
No.
Yeah. Now you
No.
you write here this book, "Black Women Will Save the World."
Yes.
Fairly provocative title.
Provocative but true. And what you forgot, Mayor President,
Yep.
he was prior mayor, and he's president. So I call him Mayor President. So I'm the only one that can do that. So anyway, you forgot the word an anthem.
An anthem.
An anthem. We
Tell
say
us about how you came up with that.
so Black women have, are, and will save the world. And I want to say it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, because it's so true. We show up first of all, we are 52% of the Black population. We're rising in numbers, head of household, rising in number as the breadwinner. And the unfortunate thing is, people don't understand when you say, "Oh, my mama was strong." Why was she strong? And her mother was strong. And her mother before her was strong. And it just keeps going and going. Why was she strong? She had to be strong. She had to be strong. But let's get into why she had to be strong. And I talk about this. Valerie Jarrett brings this up in the book. Yeah. It dates back to slavery. It dates back to the moment that we came to this nation. The strongest survived. The strongest survived the Middle Passage. So many of us here are the fruit of the strongest that survived. So think about this. After we're on the auction block, we're sold to a plantation to bear the free labor. A stud comes in and we bear the free labor. Think about this. They ripped our men from our families and we had to stand. Again, they ripped our men from our families, from us, and we had to stand by ourselves. So why are we strong? We didn't understand, but generation after generation after generation after generation had to be strong.
You talk about women as world shapers.
Oh, yeah.
And cut across continents and talk about Black women in England helping people coming out from, Blacks coming out from the Ukraine.
Yes. These two young women I interviewed, and it touched my heart. They were Black women who lived in London, Africans. And they were Black women. And they were so astonished by the scenes that we were seeing at the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war. And remember those scenes that you were seeing about the Black students who could not get the trains and everything? And they were taking their money, they were overcharging them to get to safety. Well, these Black women who were in London created a network. Black women in London created a network to figure out how to move them safely and get them out instead of those people having to stay. Again, Black women showing up, having the nurturing spirit, the intrinsic nature to say, "I'm going to help." That's what we do.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. I mean, your historical look. I mean, you talk about Black women who were spies for during the Revolutionary War, all the way up to modern days. But there was one fact in the book that just grabbed me, and I said, I got to ask you about this.
Missing Black women.
100,000 Black women missing?
Missing, yes. Yes. And that's one of the reasons why Joy Reid went off, because they always put up these pictures missing. And they do these stories about the missing women who don't look like us. And we go missing for whatever reason there is. And they don't take time to look for us, to search for us. That's one of the reasons why the numbers are so large.
That's extraordinary.
It is extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a big story. Joy Reid and I give her so many props for this. She put that issue on the table on her show. And it's unfathomable that we have young Black women who are out here either entrapped in some kind of slavery, stolen, raped, whatever, killed. We are trafficked, we are used, and people, it's just like we don't matter.
Right. Let me ask you a little bit lighter subject. Tell us about the Crown Act.
Oh, how we show up. How we show up. So my soror, how many deltas in here? Ooh, okay. Okay. Ajwa Biasamoa.
Yep.
Young woman. She is now in the Department of HUD. She's like their civil rights specialist. And before she went over with Marsha Fudge, Secretary of HUD, the real Fudge, before she went there, she was working with then Congressman Cedric Richmond on the federal effort to allow women to show up authentically in their space. If you want knots, if you want braids, if you want a wig, if you want whatever you want in your head, how you show up authentically. And do you realize still today we're still fighting? Yes. And I remember years ago, you had that conversation about your son. Remember?
With the hair.
Yeah, with the hair.
That's right.
And we're still talking about that to this day in 2022, showing up authentically as our authentic self. And yet, some people don't want us to do it. We could be fired, etc. So the Crown Act is very important for us because I'm going to tell you, and I talk about this in the book, it's unfortunate I can't show up at the White House with braids because they'll think I'm ready to go, no justice, no peace. And I talk about that in the book, but for my sisters who can, I'm telling you, because they already think I'm a militant. I'm telling you, because they say whenever I come up there, they're like, April Ryan's here. I'm like,
well,
I remember a lot, don't I? I remember a lot.
For those of you who don't know, like me, I'm being ignorant. The Crown is an acronym for, I see if I get this right now, creating a respectful and open world for natural hair.
Yes, but this is our crown, how we show up. This is our crown. And many of us choose not to be traditional. Some of us don't want to put perm in our hair. Some of us want to go natural. Some of us want to be dreaded. Some of us want to do whatever we want. We should be allowed to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about particularly women in healthcare too. Kismika Corbett is one that
Kismika Corbett. Who's Kismika Corbett? Oh, come on, guys. Thank you. Yes. She is the lead Black woman. Again, erasure.
Yep.
Erasure. Black woman who was the lead researcher on what was considered the #1 vaccine in this nation, Moderna.
Oh, she also went to UMBC.
Did she?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Kismika Corbett.
You ask Freeman, he'll tell you.
I am sure he will tell me.
Right. So kids, yes, she's outstanding. And then there's another one that you point out, and I'm going to ask you if you're a participant in Girl Trek.
Oh my gosh. I told them we got some, okay. I have a cousin in North Carolina that does that. But I want to do it. I really do. It's not just about walking, but it's about mind, body, and spirit. And they talk about these things that we're talking about here. Black women just walking. And along the way, there's health with it. The communion of sisterhood and spirit to talk and have a space to be free, because sometimes you can't have these conversations in every space. But to walk and talk, sometimes we don't have that community. And then when you walk and talk with someone and then health comes along, I mean, you cannot beat that.
Yeah.
And they're all across the country. No, you good. Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. No, but they're all across the country. And one of the leaders happens to be in Africa quite a bit. And it's just one of the most amazing things. We come up with so many great concepts to actually invent community, sisterhood, and showing up authentically.
Yeah.
And that's one of the spaces that I think we need to really look at as Black women, and how we look at ourselves, because society has told us so long how we should be, who we are, versus finding ourselves. And I think this is a moment where not only we find ourselves truthfully and authentically, but others see us.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're not seen. And I'm going to give you an example. And I said this, everybody lost their minds at this, but I said this on CBS this morning. Valerie Jarrett, who is a very dear friend of mine, and I'm so blessed that she contributed to this book and others. And she said to me, being seen in the invisibility of Black women. Think about this. When Barack Obama was president, boy, it was a different day. So anyway, it really was. So when he was president, Michelle Obama was very authentic in who she was. She would leave the White House with Valerie Jarrett. Michelle Obama is not April Ryan size. I'm 5'3", everybody's taller than me. This woman's stature, 6 foot something, beautiful, dynamic woman. No one recognized her. She walked out with Valerie Jarrett on walks in the mall and around the Capitol. The First Lady of the United States, everybody was like, oh my God, Michelle Obama. And she's out in the street, no one recognized her. And that's one of the reasons why those walks continued, because no one recognized her. We are invisible. This tall, beautiful woman. You don't see a tall, beautiful woman like that all the time.
I like them short and.
All right. Okay. All right. That's gonna be a cute ride back to Annapolis tonight, right? I get you, but
But in your book, you also talked to Valerie Jarrett about what you all refer to as an imposter syndrome.
Yeah. She just is a gift that keeps on giving, and I love her for that. Her honesty. This woman, for all intents and purposes, she and Michelle Obama are the reason why Barack Obama was the 44th president of the United States of America. 2 Black women are the reason why the first Black president became president.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand, let me explain the connections. The networking that he married into.
Right.
There's definite love there. Don't you ever think that man loves that woman. Trust and believe. But along the way was a network of connections, right? But in the meantime, you have this amazing woman, Valerie Jarrett, amazing, who turned the lights on and turned them off. 8 years, went in with him and went out with him. And that's unheard of.
Yeah,
she was his biggest confidant, most loyal confidant. She has met with world leaders. She's traveled Air Force One. She's done all that stuff. But she said in the book, sometimes when she's in these meetings and she shows up, she has an imposter syndrome. She feels like, do I belong here? That's crazy, right? because of the haunts of the past and what society tells us. You know, she talks about it in the book. You know, one of her ancestors, she has the bill of sale of one of her ancestors who was raped. And she's a product of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, at Mama's Knee, Elijah Cummings told me this. Late, great, our friend Elijah Cummings,
Yeah.
former, yes,
Yeah.
Maryland congressman. And it's in the book, At Mama's Knee. And he said to me, he said, April, you know, he said, as a child, my mother took the kids to integrate, you know, some of the pools here.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he remembers times where he had to go in the back door to get clothes because of racism in this area at that time. But he also said, he said, you know, even though I'm this and I'm that on Capitol, sometimes I wonder, do I belong here? He said that. That's in my book. He said that.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows up. It shows up. You can be in the most lofty perch and sometimes you question. It's just amazing. It's interesting. And you just never know where a person, even though they are there in these lofty perches and spaces, running the world, saving the world, there's still old haunts that make you wonder, do I belong here?
You know, and that idea about saving the world, when I finished the book, one of the images that came to my mind was the young Black girl that took the picture of George Floyd there. Was it Darnella Frazier, I think her
Yes.
name. How she really changed things by standing there courageously. And but has she been erased from?
Yeah, nobody talks about her.
Mm-hmm.
And do you realize what she did?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you brought that up. What she did, she created a world movement.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Just one.
Yeah.
And I said, my God, thank God that her battery was strong.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Mm-hmm.
Because what if she didn't have that?
Mm-hmm.
We watched him call out for his mama.
Yeah. Yeah.
We watched these police officers do the unthinkable and the unimaginable.
Yeah.
And the world rose up because of her.
I'm going to give people an opportunity to ask some questions, but before I do, you talk about in the last chapter of the book the kind of need for change.
Yeah.
And you go through a few things that need, and I just want to ask you about a couple of them.
Yes, sir.
First one is to stop discounting Black pain and suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. It speaks to being seen. We all want to feel like we matter, number one. But I want to dig into something a little bit deeper about Black pain on a physical side too.
Mm-hmm.
Discounting Black pain when we go to the hospital. Because we are perceived as, oh, we're so invincible, we're so strong. Oh, you don't hurt like the rest of the communities. Yes, we do. We bleed, we cry, we're vulnerable. But no, don't discount us, because we are still a community with the highest numbers of negatives in almost every category. Many of us are here because we have, quote unquote, made it, but we got a cousin who's in jail. We got a cousin who, or an uncle or an aunt who's in need. Someone we know doesn't have housing. Someone else we know can't make ends meet. And then there's another person, I can't get to work because I don't have gas, especially with these gas prices right now. We still recognize that, but yet we are not the ones that they look to fix the problem. We're always overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
But Black women are always there. We bring them in. Come on, baby, I'm gonna feed you. I got some food for you. We know somebody like that. Okay, I got some clothes for your interview. We are always the ones who are there to support.
Yeah. All right. You just brought out a moment for me when I was mayor, and there was a principal, one of our elementary schools, and I came to her, and asked how I could help. You may have heard her name was Leah Hasty. And I said, what, as mayor, because I grew up with this lady and I was there, what can I do for you? And she asked me to get a washing machine because some of the kids in her school didn't come to school because they were worried about being in dirty clothes. And that was as important to her education mission. So we got her the washing machine. But she thought of that. I didn't think that. Which leads me to another thing. You say respect our children and their childhood.
Yes, adultification. And I'm going to say this real quick. I had an interview with someone, and actually in this area, and it distressed me. Was not anyone that I knew, and she says, "Why are you so angry about adultification? Tell me why you're angry." I said, "First of all, I'm not going to play into that angry Black woman stereotype that you like to say. We're very concerned. And this is about changing the narrative." I'm an angry Black woman. I'm like, oh, come on, cut me a break. We gotta stop those labels, okay? We gotta stop those labels. So our children, our girls are being punished harsher. Our young children, our young girls are being punished harsher than their male counterparts. And the problem is with that, punishment's fine, but when it all depends on the punishment, how it's punished, how it's leveled. But here's the deal. If we are punishing these girls, we're taking hope away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the largest population in the Black community that goes to college? Black women.
Yeah.
So if we're punishing them like this, we take that pipeline to a better day away from them. And it's happening right now. And also, and this I really, when I read my audiobook, I know, when I read my audiobook, I was reliving it all over again. And I was like in tears in a lot of parts of it. And the adultification, I just almost cried because I'm a divorced mother and taking care of my children. And I called my oldest and said, if I gave you more because we were the Three Musketeers, forgive me. Because I said, I love you. I said, but one thing I can say, I said, when you go to college, you're going to learn how to cook and you're going to learn how to clean your clothes. She does. But I wanted to make sure that I did not take her childhood away from her. And we got to remember that. And it's so important. Yeah.
You also say it's time to invest in our political strength.
Tomorrow. Tomorrow. So here's the deal. Maryland has a brighter outcome in most areas. Maryland has a brighter outcome in most areas. But when you look down the road in Georgia,
well, he said he put his resume up against
woo, wait a minute. I can't. Anyway, but it's not just Herschel Walker. I was in Atlanta twice in the last month, and all I could do is sit in the room and watch the TV ads. They are horrific. They're vicious. They're the most ugly things I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how these people will live after the elections.
Yeah.
You got Stacey Abrams. Yeah, you got Marcus Flowers against Marjorie Taylor Greene. You got Herschel and Warnock. And Georgia's ground zero, but then we got some other places too. We got Florida with Val Demings. We've got North Carolina with Sherry Beasley. We've got Wisconsin with Mandela Barnes. We've got Los Angeles with Karen Bass.
Yeah.
I'm talking Black folks, Black women, okay? You have the largest number of Black folks running for office ever. but also at a time when you have people who want to roll back things.
Yeah.
And you know this.
Yeah.
200, this is the baseline, 299 GOP election deniers are on the ballot. And these races are close.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say this is not about party, this is not about politics, this is about humanity. We've already seen a rollback from a conservative court on Roe v. Wade. No matter where you stand, that is not an easy decision for anyone to make, but for someone to tell you what you can and cannot do. But then here's another thing. Right now, the Supreme Court is dealing with something that impacts all of us called affirmative action.
Yeah.
What is it? Affirmative action is to correct a wrong, and the expectation is there will be a rollback. That affirmative action case, if I'm correct, Mr. Mayor President, if it's rolled back, it has more tentacles than just in college admissions, correct?
The same way that Brown versus Board of Education started.
The freedoms that we had.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not going to be free people. So this is what I'm saying. And I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I'm telling you from the perch that I sit in, the lofty perch and the wisdom that I gain from people like Mayor President Kurt Schmoke. Because when I don't understand, I'm like, look, sir, he'll text me right back. How you doing? Here you go. But seriously, the 1965 Voting Rights Act is gone. You are voting without the protections of the Voting Rights Act, period. End of story. What do you have? The Fair Housing Act? Mm-hmm. And we don't have housing like we have the numbers of housing Black homeowners like in 1968. Mm-hmm. Housing is important because you leverage education, businesses, and so many different things. Black wealth. Hello. We got the Civil Rights Act, but once this happens, if there is a rollback, which we're expecting, because Amy Coney Barrett said, what did she say? I'm paraphrasing. She says, has affirmative action run its course? Mm-hmm. Oh, you didn't hear that? Am I telling the truth?
You did.
Yes. Do you not understand what's at stake? Our freedoms are leaving. We are not going to be free.
Let me take a couple of quick questions here.
But Black women are going to save us, I'm telling you.
Because
we go to the polls in numbers, right, and we speak out. So if you have a question, come to the microphone. We're not going to do the scream and shout.
We have about 15 minutes for questions. Please come to the mic.
Okay, so make it short and sweet.
So I have a quick one from our online audience, which is, will there be a platform for Black journalists, reporters, writers, and activists under one umbrella?
That's up to the journalists, activists, everybody. I mean, to come under one umbrella. Look, Ida B. Wells was a journalist and activist. And she did great work. And in this book, okay, so I'm going to say this. I am a journalist. The word activist nowadays is a pejorative for me, because that's the way they say, oh, you're an activist, to try to shut me up. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Nicole Hannah-Jones, my dear friend, 1619 Project. Yes. That sister is the truth. She said, yeah, you're an activist. She said, because you can speak on something, you're an expert, and you can challenge it. I said, okay. But then Melanie Campbell, my dear friend, who is a true activist, she has the ear of the president. She said, April, she said, your activism is different. She said, you write. And when you write, your writings create movement. I said, okay, I'll take it like that. I'm not out here, no justice, no peace, and marching. My children do that. They do. I wonder where they got it from. But I guess I accept it that way. But I'm not going to be out here marching. And I'm going to write, and I'm going to give you all sides of the story so you understand in an unbiased way so it can help you carry out your day. But if they call me an activist, so be it.
Well, you quote her, Nicole Hannah-Jones, as all journalism is activism.
Amen.
All right. Question.
Good evening. I enjoyed your book.
Thank you.
I wanted to find out, did you have any role models, mentors? Because it seems like you know, being a White House correspondent, journalist, it can be a lonely area.
Oh, it is a lonely
And
area.
sometimes there are majority people that are role models or to give us access. You say you were outside of the NAJB, which I don't know if that would have helped you, but did you have any role models?
Yeah, the late great,
Mentors too.
yeah, the late great Gwen Eiffel. That was my buddy. And you know, I typically wonder, I'm like, what would Gwen do right now? You know, I was like, during the Trump years, what would Gwen do? You know, I was like, what? You know, she was everything. You know, a lot of Black women who, my mother for one, she was the most amazing woman. And it still stays with me to this day. But she was my biggest example of she would work and then have her husband breakfast, lunch, working, taking care of her business, and then come home taking care of the family. And while I was in high school, she went back and got her degree. So this, I mean, and she was my example. Why I became friends with me, she saw herself in me, because she was, she said, you know, she was a divorced mom and she was taking care of her kid, you know, Laura, who's now and we became friends, and her uplift just is amazing. I try to associate myself with people who are about uplift. I don't like all that. I can't, because I can go there. I can stay down. I need a lot. I need such I need positive feedback. Like, let's work together. Let's build better. Let's, you know, that's just where I like to be and stay. Yeah. Thank you.
Question.
Hi, I'm Tia. I'm
Hi,
from
Tia.
Urban Reads Bookstore.
Hey.
Thank you. I'm your seller tonight. I'm the
Yes,
bookseller
that's
tonight.
right. Thank you.
So many people have already donated your book to prisons, to someone that's incarcerated.
Amen.
That's what I do. So I'm sending this book particularly to the females
Yes.
that are in prison.
Most definitely.
What is something you can tell me to give back to them in prison?
This moment does not make you. You can rise. You will rise. You shall rise, and still I rise.
Yes.
We all fall down. We have all fallen down. Something, you know, but that doesn't make you. You can, as long as you have life, you have hope. And when you want to change, you will do it. This is not it. This is not the end.
Absolutely.
And this book, I hope, shows them who they are. Because a lot of these women are mirrors of those women who were there. A lot of these women were putting, look, Angela Davis, okay?
One of my heroes.
Right, and she's out here pushing against prison, the kind of prison structure we have now. And she's been in prison, and I still rise. Tell them that.
I sure will.
Because they are, sorry, they are this cover.
That's right.
They are this cover.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is also April. And I'm
Hi,
Sarah.
April.
Nice to
You're a
meet
good
you.
person. You got that name. I love it.
So leading up to my question, you had stated that still today we're still fighting in relation to the Crown Act, which I thought was very important. However, I think that response can apply to everything that you guys have discussed tonight. So when I hear the title of your book, Black Women Will Save the World, an anthem, it feels inevitable that younger generations like myself of Black women will take on the mantle. But speaking for me and some of the younger women in our lives, we do feel hopeless. So what's your advice to younger Black women who are feeling this way or even reluctant to take on that mantle? Thank you.
I hate to hear you say you feel hopeless. I'm a kid from Baltimore City. Walter Scott Thomas, Bishop Walter Scott Thomas said, yes, new psalmist, okay? Bishop Walter Scott Thomas says the word failure is built into the existence of people who live in Baltimore and no other cities like that. I am a product of Baltimore City. He is a product of Baltimore City. You know, I go around, people are like, oh, you're from Baltimore? Yeah, I'm from Baltimore. And you have to sometimes, what's this song? Speak to yourself. Encourage yourself. Yeah, because sometimes there are not going to be people, encourage yourself. Yeah, sometimes there are not going to be people around to lift you up. But I'm going to say this to you. You don't have hope, but see what you want to see. Look at your life. Look at what you, one thing we don't do, we don't teach our children to imagine further. And I challenge my children all the time. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I make it a point to be, because they put us in a box, especially coming from this city, I do the exact opposite that they expect me to do. See, I'm a divorced mother. I shouldn't be doing anything. I should be broken. I should be down. I should be in here begging y'all for something. But I refuse because I said, okay, what do I want? And I said, okay, this is what I want. How do I get there? And then when I say, how do I get there? I figure out who I need to be around to inspire me to lift me. It's called networking. Get rid of that hope. Get rid of that hopelessness and look at the hope. Because just do a storyboard. Seriously, do a storyboard. And then when you say, this is what I want, because what do you want to do in life? Okay, well, here's what do the kids want to do that you work with that are hopeless?
I mean, that's where we just feel like it just feels kind of pointless, you know, trying to actually make change. It just feels like our generation is just struggling to do it. So that's kind of where I'm.
No, when you got.
I'm still fighting. I'm definitely.
Do you know movements? I hear you, but do you realize movements started with young people? Do you realize that these young people, out of all these other crazy things, remember they were going over to the state house in Michigan, acting a fool with their guns and stuff and no mask, and a lot of them got COVID. But these young people galvanized during George Floyd, Black Lives Matter with George Floyd, put their masks on. We didn't have vaccines at that time, defied the odds. You didn't hear that many COVID cases at the time. They defied the odds in March. They had hope for a better day. If they can do that, why can't they figure out, okay, let's do a storyboard. What can I do? If you can do that kind of lift in that moment, the world is yours. You just have to envision it and then plot out how to do it. Yeah, and that's one thing we don't tell our children. Let's plot it out.
Let me get this.
Yes, I'm sorry. Hi.
Hi. So two things. One, my name is Rachel Graham. We've met. I work with the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. Hey.
Hey.
Okay.
But I have to give you kudos and props because you are much braver than I am. So you may not remember, but in 2017, when you were awarded Journalist of the Year, I was the president of the National Association of Black Journalists New Orleans chapter. Right. And so I
remember because we were down there at the time of Charlottesville. Charlottesville was happening while we were down there, but there was some other stuff going on down there too.
Absolutely. And so I say you're braver than I am because I was a radio show host and faced only an inkling of what you faced, and I couldn't take it. So I have to give you the props. I went back to public relations. I was like, nah, this isn't for me. I had my face on Twitter and things of that nature. To that point, we've recently experienced the summarial firing of one of your sister journalists, Miss Tiffany Cross.
Tiffany.
And you can't, I won't ask you to speak specifically to it, but in the face of that, when we talk about Black journalists being activists, what do we do now? I have hope, but it's literally a question of what do we do now when you have spaces that are controlled by folks that may not want to hear us speak, and the best way to silence us is to take the strongest of us and silence them.
So I'm glad you brought Tiffany Cross up. Tiffany has a strong voice that we need. Roland Martin has a strong voice that we need. Do I agree with what happened, how it happened? no. It could have, if it was going to happen, it could have been done differently. And but she is talented. She is talented. And I pray that her tomorrow will be bright. But right now, she's got to go through whatever she's got to go through to work that all out. But I pray that she shows up on the other side, because I know some people already who are waiting to bring her in. Trust me, I can't go through it. I can't talk about it anymore. But she has a voice that is needed in this time. In this time.
Yeah. We've got two more, here and here.
Okay.
Thank you. Full disclosure, I actually grew up in the same church as our former mayor.
Douglas Memorial?
Douglas Memorial, yeah.
Aha.
I'm
Raphael Warnock used to be the preacher there.
There you go. That's right. That's right.
He asked me why I didn't come to the church. I said, I saw you.
I wasn't going to get up, but then you brought up the name Angela Davis. And that prompted me to want to come to the microphone, because I just finished a book by possibly Angela Davis's best friend, Margaret Burnham. The book is called By Hands Now Known: Legal Executioners, Jim Crow's Legal Executioners. That's the subtitle. And I had never even heard of Margaret Burnham. She's one of our most powerful jurists that has ever been. She was born only 1 month before Angela Davis. Angela Davis's mother and her mother, who, by the way, is 107 years old now and still alive. Margaret Burnham, Northeastern University, wrote this book. Was just, a friend of mine recommended it to me, and I was just floored. I know I highlighted at least 5% of the entire book. And what I wanted to bring out, by bringing out Margaret Burnham, and she, by the way, was appointed to a civil rights position by President Biden in 2021. But one thing that really blew me away about that book was George Floyd that we had almost 3 years ago. It's not the only George Floyd.
Oh, no.
In that book, there's another George Floyd, killed in 1945. He was beaten to death in a jail cell. I think it was in Georgia. I'm not sure about the state, but I implore all of you to find out, about Margaret Burnham and take it from there.
Thank you. But you know what? George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery.
Yes.
How about that? Yeah, Breonna Taylor. Yeah, Sandra Bland. But wait a minute, and let's talk about a mother whose love created justice that we never saw in this nation for lynchings. Because what happened to George Floyd was a lynching. What happened to Ahmaud Arbery was a lynching, a real hard lynching to watch. A shotgun. You don't know that those bullets went through him. And then they're going to talk about his toes at the trial, how dirty they were. How dare they? But let's talk about this. You want to talk about George Floyd? Let's talk about a 14-year-old child in Money, Mississippi, by the name of Emmett Till, whose mama wanted justice for him. This nation, it took up to how long we got the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act. What was it, this year?
Yep.
This year. And how long? 67 years since he was tortured, brutalized, domestic terrorism for allegedly whistling at a white woman. Ahmaud Arbery just wanted to dream bigger. He was hunted down like an animal. Yes. And that story didn't even rank, they were hiding it. So it's not, George Floyd is alone.
You get the last question.
What an honor. So hi, I'm Jasmine Richardson, and I will always see Mayor Schmoke and see the city that reads, because I was a little kid and that bench was by my high school, and I always say reading is the reason why I was able to succeed in life. So I always want to just say thank you so much for doing that. Link sister, I think so highly of you.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to ask,
Where are my links? Because there's a bunch of links. Hello, links. Okay.
and I just wanted to ask you, I think one of the fundamental issues of our generation, and I think even of this world, which is the fact when people talk about they have a larger echo chamber, and I'm just going to say faux news, the fairness doctrine. So our education system, for what it is, does not always help us to be comprehensive, critical thinkers the way we would like it to be. And it's being challenged so much with books. They're being banned. And I'm buying this book for everybody for Christmas. So don't ask me what you're getting for Christmas. Everybody getting this book. But for you as a journalist, and a journalistic integrity, the fourth estate, the pillar of a democracy, with the corporate landscape that you're in and the free press not being supported and local press struggling the way it has been, and this big machine that you're up against, when they abolished the fairness rule that said you had to be able to present the truth, is there any movement for people trying to get that back? Or do you see a path that we can support journalism and journalists like yourself who have integrity so that people can get truth and facts in front of them? Because it's propaganda and it's being projected out to the world. And I just want to know how we can support you, and maybe if you have a thought on that.
I just want to support your question because it happens to be one of the last things in your book about what we need for change. And you write, let us speak for ourselves.
I'm a firm believer in not letting anyone tell your story. I'm a firm believer in that because the narrative has been reshaped and it's been made into entertainment if you watch certain news organizations. And again, we are a community with the highest numbers of negatives in almost every category. And here in Baltimore City, we are hurting hard. We are hurting and we don't have time to play. Okay. So what I ask is for everyone to just read what I write or support us on the Brio. And I'm going to tell you, when you read what I write, it's not hearsay. It's not myth conjecture. I come with receipts. And the reason why I come with receipts, because like if I talk to Mayor President Schmoke, I say, can I use you? He said, sure. I want you to know that this is truth from the expert. I did a piece, and it's so interesting. Real Clear Politics, for whatever likes to pick up my stuff now, Real Clear Politics is more of a conservative leaning news organization. They want to figure out, what's going on over there. But they know April is going to give the truth because I come with receipts. And that's one thing I need everyone to do. The stakes are too high for us to wonder if this is fact or opinion. I need you to make sure that when you're reading a source, it's credible. I'm going to say straight up, my stuff is. And make sure you leave understanding what's going on versus, oh, what was this? Was this opinion? Was this entertainment? Again, the stakes are too high. And for me, I'm going to give you fact. I'm going to give you the people who are involved or someone who can help explain. We are now in a time when the news has been dumbed down. And it is a scary time particularly when it comes to stuff that we have, because a lot of places won't even put it up. The black farmers, I've been dealing with the black farmers since I came to Washington 25 years ago. They still looking for money. Nobody's covering them. The water in Flint, we're talking about Jackson, but the water in Flint still ain't right. Nobody's talking about that. And we get right, you know, for instance, I mean, I go to the nth degree. When all the Jackson stuff was happening, it was a big crescendo. I don't know how I got the number of the mayor of Jackson. I said, sir, this is April Ryan. What do you have to say? He said, I'm getting ready to go to, I said, just give me one word. And he gave it to me. I go to the nth degree to make sure you get what you need so you can carry on the rest of your day and the rest of your life. I give you what you need for tomorrow. And then in the next couple of weeks, I'm giving you what you need because somebody's getting ready to run for president again. And you need to know this and what's at stake, you know? And that's one of the reasons, I guess, that I get in trouble. I have Caesar Sayoc bombs and all sorts of things.
There you go.
Good trouble.
Good trouble.
Yeah.
Well, April, we want to thank you for being here tonight, for writing this book, and for being who you are. And we urge you to stay in good trouble. Now, we have
you're gonna be my lawyer. You're gonna be my lawyer if I need to get out of jail. I said, look.
April Ryan, Kurt Schmoke, thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now, if you would like to go outside, please buy a book, line up against the wall. My colleague Sophia will start the line. I'll bring April out in a second. She'll